This is working normal. Okay, radio.
Objective is to kill men, to kill mankind.
The goal of the demonic is death. Plain and simple, it is death.
All of a sudden, he gets slapped in the face and he flies against the wall. I mean, he inflicts appear across the face.
Really scary here. Everything about it is scary. To work in this field, I think is very important.
It was escalating to where objects started moving.
This is a war that we're fighting. What you're talking about does not frequently return to Sept. It is from another time and place.
Demonology today.
Demonology today. Class is now in session. All righty. The Real Deals live. You know, Facebook scheduling is not working. It's supposed to be a no-brainer. You schedule it ahead of time. It's even telling me you're live now. You know, get your signal connected. But no one's seeing it anywhere. So we had to do what we did last week. We had to end that one, and we had to start an instant live Facebook broadcast. So welcome to Demonology Today Radio. It's no longer called radio, it's called TV, but we call it the Real Deals. We're making a transition to something that's not so much stuck on just spiritual warfare and demonology, and this is the way we're going to do it. And tonight we have a special guest with us, Denise Pridemore, and hopefully not her dog. Oh, that was your dog sitting.
Yes.
So we might have to turn up our people on the other side of the planet. No, not really. She's dead. Okay, what was that all about? Well, I think we lost somebody.
Uh-oh. Yeah, it shows up as live, so we're
okay.
good.
Okay.
We're good.
Oh, my gosh. This is the Kings.
Gosh. This is
All
crazy.
right. Anyway, along with Deborah Johnson. Say hello, Deb.
Hello, guys. I'm here.
Okay, and we'll get Michael Norton in just a minute, but we have Christopher Sampson. Let me see if I can get Michael
Howdy.
Norton. Yeah. Michael Norton. Not the same without the Nortonisms. But anyway, we apologize that the feed, the video that's above the chat room that's on demonologytoday.com live page is not going to be active because you have to preset it, and it was set for the live broadcast automatic schedule. So as soon as I started a new stream, and I'll go live instant one, it's not going to show up there. And I apologize for that too. So you'll have to go to Kenneth and Farah's page. Don't go to our French page. Go to the Kenneth and Farah's OFS page. What would you call that? The business page, our ministry page. And you'll see it broadcast there, and you can comment in there.
It's our broadcasting page. It's where we're launching the energy from.
Exactly. Well, let's get started with the show. So we'll do our prayer to pray that everything goes well, doesn't go wrong. Now, the blessings upon everybody who listens to the show and so forth, and protection. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle, be our protection against the malice and the snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, will be humbly praying. Do thou, Prince of the heavenly host, by the divine powers of God, cast into hell Satan and all the other evil spirits who roam through the world, seeking to ruin the souls. Amen. Most Sacred Heart of Jesus, have mercy on us. Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Tonight's topic is Paranormal Investigations. We're hoping to bring up some topics that we had not before. Give useful information instead of just going over like we're doing another Ghost Hunter guidebook or something, because it's not what it's about. We're trying to is relating to the real work. How useful is it? How irrelevant is these old TV shows like Ghost Hunters or something to some degree without taking that apart? Because that seemed to be the template for everybody. TV shows. And then somebody writes a book about the TV shows, and suddenly people are following the book because now they got it in print. But we're going to start off with a little bit of a commentary before we get started, if you call it kind of world news. And Tucker Carlson had a guest on. And again, we have this topic where all the world witches are uniting to try to put a spell on Trump. Let's forget this, ye harm no one, or whatever this thing is supposed to be. How are you going to actually stop Trump, get him dethroned or whatever they're trying to do without harming him? So it's well, anyway, let's get started on that by letting everybody see and listen to this.
President Trump doesn't always do what people expect him to do, or even what his supporters want him to do. Is he being unpredictable? Or could there be another cause, perhaps a magical one? Amanda Yates Garcia is the Oracle of Los Angeles. She says she's a witch, tarot card reader, spellcaster, energy healer, intuitive medium, shamanic practitioner, and magical life coach. Last night she helped cast a so-called binding spell on our president to prevent him from causing harm to others. We've asked many witches to come on this program, but only Amanda Yates Garcia was brave enough to accept our invitation. She joins us tonight from Los Angeles. Amanda, thank you for coming on tonight. I just had a panic communication in the commercial break with one of my producers, Alex, who said, be nice to her. I don't want to spell on me. So I hope that you'll pull back on your powers and spare our staff. What does this mean exactly, that you casting binding a spell on the president?
I know.
Binding spells are like any other spells, so they're a symbolic action used to harness the powers of the imagination and achieve a tangible result eventually. Yeah.
And what was the result that you desired?
And they're fun for the whole family.
Exactly.
Well, I desire that Trump stop harming people that I care about and instituting policies that also harm me or other people that I care about. So my ultimate aim is that we protect the people that we love from having harm done to them. But in the meantime, I think what's really important is that we create a sense of solidarity and empowerment within the people who are participating in the spell to galvanize them towards action so that they can feel empowered to make the changes that they want to see in the world.
Most people just go ahead and vote or buy a T-shirt. Is this legal? Can you run around casting spells on? Are you allowed to cast spells on people? Is there any kind of federal regulation of this?
Well, okay, so symbolic action is something that everybody participates in all the time, right? So you might think, oh, that doesn't really have any meaning, but if that were true, then, for instance, why would people care whether or not people saluted the flag or sang the national anthem? That's also symbolic action, and that kind of symbolic action does have power, and that's why people care about it. So while I don't think that any witch is thinking, oh, this is the only action that is necessary to prevent Trump from enacting his mean policies, I think that they're hoping that by doing these symbolic actions that will galvanize people to resist with our hearts, with our full hearts.
So, since you're the only witch, I've interviewed a lot of people, but I've never interviewed a witch. Sincere question, is Eye of Newt an actual ingredient?
I think the real problem is not whether or not Eye of Newt is an actual ingredient. The real problem is we're about to have some kind of big nuclear extravaganza with North Korea. The real problem is that we're punishing immigrant children. The real problem is that we're
right. I mean, there are lots of problems, but that's
to go into deep debt. I don't think the real problem is whether or not we use Eye of Newt in our
I'm not suggesting it's a problem, and I'm with you on the student debt, by the way, completely. I don't think Trump did that, but whatever. But it doesn't get to my question, which is Eye of Newt an actual thing or not?
Eye of Newt isn't from Shakespeare, so I think he was probably using a little bit of poetic license. Most witches today use whatever we have available to us. Like, for instance, candles and paper.
Does it ever worry you? I mean, by the way, I'm not dismissing what you're saying. I don't think that the only things that exist are the things that we can see. There clearly is a supernatural. I don't understand it, but I wonder if you're ever worried about the consequences of bluntly fooling around with things that nobody really understands. I'm sincere. Do you ever worry about that?
You know, a lot of people ask me that, whether or not I worry about the supernatural consequences of what I'm doing. I mean, I trust that what I'm doing is for the greatest good of all concerned, because that's what I hold in my heart. That's what all these witches are doing this for, is because they have the pure intention of creating good in the world, to make a more beautiful, loving, whole, healthy world. And so that's the intention that they're doing this work. So nobody's worried that it's going to backfire on them, because nobody's doing this spell to cause Trump harm.
So you think, I'm not even talking about Trump, I just mean in general. Oh, no, I don't think you are, right? But you think good intentions will protect you? I don't know. No, it's kind of spooky, but you seem nice.
You need a lesson, Carlson.
No, I don't. Scares me. I appreciate it, though. Thanks for coming on, Oracle Garcia.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Oh my goodness.
She was so big.
We're kind of testing a segment out on that tonight too, and that's the cool thing about video. So hope everybody liked this little intro. We're going to do that on other stuff. It's kind of like the 3 robots in Mystery Science Theater 3000, you know, that we comment during it and that sort of thing. So we're going to throw those kind of things in there sometimes because we can, right? Because it's fun. But the main topic tonight. We have the book Haunted Investigations there on our feed, right, you see there in the far right, of course. And that one is in preprint. We call it the Underground Edition, as we did with the old Red Book back when we had a Demonology handbook, Catholic Demonologist handbook released off the printer. And on IamHaunted.com, I sold about 150 copies of that one before it went to publisher. Oh, what's that? Hello?
Somebody was playing the guitar for you, telling you need to turn up the gain.
Oh, I thought that was like the fasten your seatbelts light.
Close.
It's like.
No,
right.
that was fasten your toad to the road so you can pick off his toenails. Poor little toad.
So what we're going to do tonight, of course, we're going to try to cover and talk about things that we haven't before when we've done other shows about paranormal investigations. So where to begin exactly? I have a list here. Even I can't read. What was that? Yes? Stand up and say something if you have something to bring to the class. I don't know what that was. Did you hear that? It sounded like somebody came in, some audio thing or something. It's not on our end. All right, anyway. So, with the list, we're going to present our roundtable. But you know what? Anybody have any comments about what we just seen and heard? I think that might be an interesting thing since we gave it... Let's do more than just comment like...
Since we gave it 2 thumbs down?
Yeah.
Well, she was so vague. What did Trump do to hurt her friends and family?
Exactly.
I mean, she just says it, and it's like, okay, well, I said it, so it's fact now. What did he do? Specifically. She had no specifics whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Good
Typical.
question.
Yeah. Mike?
Well, I hope kids aren't listening, because I want to comment about the kit she had displayed. When I do the pagans, the witches and pagan shows, that candle, when they're binding a male, will be in the shape of a male organ and be black when they burn it. And it's supposed to burn off the evil. They just portrayed a little white wax candle. So she's not really telling the truth or portraying what she really does. And she made like a little fun house kit there.
Very, very, very supposedly nice and sweet and harmless. I saw that too.
Yeah. I'm surprised she doesn't have, the black painted fingernails and the black hair. It's just like Elvira or something. I don't know. Elvira's not she's just an actress, but a B movie. I don't know. Was she ever in a movie besides the Elvira movie? I don't know. All righty. So the third on the wheel is Deb Johnson.
Okay, so she has herself and all her witch friends placing a curse on Trump. Doesn't she realize Trump has people also praying for him?
Good point.
Okay, so I'm praying for him on our end. So she can do whatever she thinks she's doing on her end.
Mm-hmm.
So, To each his own, Ken.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you want
I think she would have been better off stating what she'd like to do is see him impeached. Okay, because a lot of people would like to see that. I personally wouldn't like to see that. I mean, but it would be better off to say that than to go the evil way of her doings.
Yeah, and that's all I got on that, that sort of thing too. Is that they can just force something instead of praying to, for the, the greater good. In other words, put it in God's hands. And
I pray for the first family every day. And you have to pray for anybody who's running your country. You have to pray for them, whether you care for them or you don't care for them.
Yes, I agree.
Well said, Wisdom of Deb. Farah Rose?
Well, number one, even the most ignorant witch on the planet knows that if you're going to cast a spell, if you're going to bind someone in a non-harmful fashion, they must have some sort of legitimate connection to the person they will be binding. Of course, she didn't address this or say how she'd do this because she probably doesn't want to give her secrets away, like the witches on that other show that were proudly bragging they were handing out, what was it, orange painted bananas so they looked like President Trump. I'd never got the orange connection with Trump, but I have yet to see, fortunately, any actual real, thank goodness, I think the prayers are kind of counterbalancing everything that's going on. I have yet to see anyone come out with anything that has a legal connection or an ability to do what they actually claim they want to do. It's almost as if I look at it as a bunch of toddlers screaming, I want dinner, and if you're not going to give it to me, I'm going to throw mud at you. Well, fortunately, the adult can shut the door and go, well, that's nice, have fun with that. That's just how I look at it. And yes, on a spiritual level, it's a lot uglier than that, and there's probably a lot more involved in that. I don't think that, the majority of people that don't understand how spiritual warfare works, that they're not even capable of seeing or knowing what the war is. And like Deb says, there's so many people actually praying and covering this president. I really don't see evil standing a chance, or it would have been done before he ever made it to the White House.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The thing is why didn't that kind of stuff happen? You didn't have conservatives going out there going, oh, I got to find me a witch to go put a hex on Obama. We just sat back and said, okay, we got to take this for these 4 years. And then, oh, crap, we got to take it for 4 more. And we just lived with it. And now they're telling us, oh, well, we don't have to be quiet. You had to shut up and sit down, but you guys, they're allowed to go out there and complain until to their heart's desire. Sit down at football game, sit down during the national anthem or whatever it is they're doing, protesting and tearing up St. Louis. You're not allowed to do that. Grow up, people.
It's a shame. And, what I hear, everybody says, how can Trump just come on the air and state we're going to destroy North Korea?
Oh, yeah.
It's not just Trump. It's not him just making that up. He has to listen to the military, okay? He has to get advice from everybody, from the cabinet, from his military, which is our military. He's not just throwing that out there, we're going to destroy them. This is what the military's telling them. We're going to do this or that, and we need you to agree to it.
Right, and Congress has to approve it too. So he can't just govern by executive order, which we got tired of hearing that. Exactly. By executive order,
everybody wants to blame it all on Trump. That's all his words. No, it's not his words. He's just one person. He can't make that final decision. It's got to be a unanimous decision amongst, like you said, the whole entire government.
Yeah. Remember that thing they called the big switch? We saw that Dinesh D'Souza outline it in more detail. But that's probably one of the biggest lies out there. Supposedly, since slavery, that all the Republicans that supported the free slave movement or the right side of the Civil War, the Union, as though they switched over and became Democrats. Why? Well, yeah, I think I'll go join the old KKK party. And then on the other side, they're acting like as though the Democrats who supported slavery became Republicans. I mean, okay, since when did the devil switch with God? Because that's how black and white that was a while there. Head of the KKK, we were talking about the Freemasons the other day. That was all on that side, not on the Republican side, the party of Lincoln. and some sort of big switch. So you had civil rights bill being rejected by the other side, the left, all the way into the 60s, and suddenly we all switched. No, we didn't. We still support, Christian teachings, and they haven't changed. The doctrine hasn't changed. Planned Parenthood, does a majority of their money is abortion, and Margaret Sanger started that Planned Parenthood for eugenics, for genocide, to take care of what she thought was a problem population. She was a KKK member. And anybody who, just say, oh, well, I got free abortion, big deal. You can go to the devil and get stuff for free, too. But now we're getting off topic.
Totally.
We'll save that for another show.
Well, but again, some of those abortions that were performed is what paranormal researchers are possibly researching now, trying to find out. Going back to what you guys have said about that abortion could, people end up being depressed and all that. They get open for, obsession or oppression and possession. It's quite possible that some of the houses that the paranormal investigators are going into are more that from the PTSD after having an abortion than an actual real ghost.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, that's something you can float around the table. Look at that's just one source, one reason, and it seems it's probably, I'm not going to say impossible. Like, let's say I'm a young man. I'm 22. Now let's go a little older now. Let's say I'm 26, and I'm dating. How many of the women that I would date would actually have a history of an abortion? So one day they're going to be ghosts. How is that going to shape the phenomenon? Pythian Castle here in town here used to be, the Knights of Pythia home, and that's an order of the Freemasons that they're retired Freemasons, and there was child abuse there. They actually housed orphans in the same house as them, and there's molestations, and people who have been in there that claim to be sensitive have come up with this too, but it's in the history. We looked up the old Knights of Pythia little booklet. Says you must be a white male. I did that research for the Booth Brothers. I didn't bring that up in the movie though. But that there's some darkness that it came from that. From the anyway.
Yeah.
So let's go on that a little bit too. You investigate that stuff. Background investigations. How key and important then is that, Farah?
For
history of a house, like who lived there, that kind of thing, like what the nature of the people were that lived there before, something along that line.
In regards to possession, infestation, oppression,
house investigations. You're an investigator. That's your main thing. Like let's say you're just gonna not solve it, you're just going to investigate it to try to get to the bottom.
Oh, you mean I'm just going to go identify there's actually a roach living there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more or less.
Okay, so I'm having fun as an investigator. I'd say it's a good idea to go do an abstract because going and digging into the county's files is going to give you a broad idea of what the history of the house was, any buildings, any construction, any changes of hands, anything that is associated legally with the property, such as if, the Hatfields and McCoys killed 3 people on the Hatfields property because the McCoys said that was their property, that will probably be recorded. Of course, that'll be in the criminal courts, but it'll still be recognizable in the legal document of the abstract as property dispute, C, and then it'll reference a file that you've got to go look for somewhere else. So in doing an abstract on the property, you're also going to find things such as, were they mining for gold on the property? Did they dig for oil? Was there a topological topo survey done that actually shows groundwater flow so that they could dig a pond and, bury their last relatives they didn't like? The history of the house is really, it can be kind of time consuming depending on what exactly you're looking at and what sort of effect that the whole family or the past residents have lived through. That's what I found.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not easy to do. I'm not really I don't really love the research, you know.
I don't either. I just want to go in there, wave my magic boot, and say, "Okay, I'm done with you."
Yeah, we're looking for solutions. So.
Actually, in some investigations, all it takes is enough to talk to them over the telephone and tell them what they need to do first.
Isn't that the truth?
That's right.
Because how many times have you guys gone into a place after a paranormal team has been in there and somebody has said, well, it's a demon, and then you got to spend the whole time telling them it's not a demon.
Right.
Yeah. And
That's right.
because I don't know how many times I hear people say this, and I'm like, okay, now, no matter what, you've got to prove to them that it's not what somebody else told them.
Oh,
and
so true.
And what's bad is you got to end up discrediting the other team that came in.
That's, I think, the worst part. That's a really good point, Denise, is that people so want to believe that these teams are honest. And for the most part, most of them are very, very sincere. Most of them really are sincere. You know, it's just the ones that are out there that want to... Who wants to sit in somebody's house from, 11 o'clock till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning? Ghosts and demons don't have a timeline. They're not going to come out just because you turn the lights out. They're already there. And so, it's like most of them, other than the people that want those captures to say, hey, check it out what I got. Oh, wow, I've got dust on my lens. It's an orb. Check it out. So, most of them, I think, Denise, are pretty much, and that's the hard thing, is that we have to say, I'm sorry, but this person was wrong. And there goes their belief. And that's the small grain of faith that we got to very carefully walk that fine line, because we don't want people to get confused, and most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they end up being very confused. Well, why would they tell me this, or why would they say this, and why would... So then, we have to be like legal lawyers and sit there and lay out this, and that.
Yes.
Say, yep, I'm sorry, but, you got sold a chunk of dirt. I'm sorry, it's just not a diamond.
And Farah, the worst part is you don't know what type of person that's receiving that message.
No.
They could be bipolar or something, and they can't shake it even though it's not true. It's just how he delivers is just wrong, and they think nothing of it.
Well, and I think you got a point there, too, because the more that we try and help these other teams that are sending us cases, we're realizing that there's a very large, and I don't want anybody offended, there's a very large percentage of people that are attracted to investigations and solving haunts that are either fighting their own demons unsuccessfully or possibly ignoring the fact that there's a lot more things swimming around in their closets than skeletons. And they they don't even want to open the door. And that's, that's pretty much in just about any profession, but there's a large majority of them here. And the nice thing, though, is we really haven't run into any mass murderers. We haven't really run into, the only thing that really gets violent is usually, teenagers or people that are possessed occasionally thrash a little bit. But basically, I'd say... oh, gosh, it's just difficult when you're having to deal with people in that sensitive a situation.
Christopher, you can relate to that without even going to...
Totally, he can.
You're still dealing with the darkness of humanity.
Exactly. When you go hide behind anything, and the people that I've seen, in fact, I was just telling a client earlier today that this October 4th, in fact, the Feast of St. Francis of Assisi, I'll have been at this particular clinic 7 years, and in just 7 years, I was thinking about it, just the different stories and attitudes, emotions, histories, and everything else that gets brought in, I'm thinking, holy cow. But surprisingly, and I think it is from an inner need, these people eventually come around and realize that I will pray with them, and next thing you know, that door is open of communication. And then, some things start surfacing, and luckily, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to this. I'm like, I kind of need some extra help from the Lord to kind of help me with this. So I tend to pray before I get to my clinic. I pray while I see people. Okay. And a lot of times people will kind of say, that's exactly what I need to hear. And next time I see them, they don't have that same bothered look. So whatever it is, whatever the enemy had on them, seems to kind of have lessened. So,
Michael?
I kind of concur with that too. What he was saying, that prayer does a long way. I was kind of curious when Chris brought that up too. Is when we see some of these investigators on TV go in and pray to protect them from, have God protect them from the demonic or whatever in there. Yet they go use EVPs and everything's an abomination to God. And it's like, how does that prayer sit in, right? It's kind of a deceiving.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for some, when we're in this conversation, I was actually thinking about the lights out scenario because Sarah touched on that. That you don't need to turn the lights out. Some cases, I was talking to Greg Myers in 2006, and I said, when you put those infrared, not the infrared because they've been using ultraviolet cameras, so that they can pick up something in the dark, that we're looking at it from a perspective of human beings. This is a kind of an equipment note, that we have this limited range that falls off just like our hearing. And dogs can hear higher than us, doesn't mean the frequencies that are above our hearing don't exist and sounds don't exist. Look at that happen, and I think that was Cuba. The embassy or some Americans down there were getting bombarded with extremely low frequencies, ELFs. And you can't tell. You just get the symptoms of the sickness. If you put your ear up to one of those supposed ultrasonic pest controllers, I really haven't figured out they even work. I mean, how are you going to train mosquitoes to suddenly not like this anymore? I mean, it's some nonsense like that. I looked in the book. I don't get it. There's a piece of equipment to avoid on the opposite thing for gardening. But just because you can't hear it doesn't mean it's not going to, do some damage with you on that. So. Anyway, the point is that ultraviolet light that you have on there, so your camera can see it and pick it up, and then you can see the camera, doesn't mean that, a demonic spirit or a spirit who otherwise would cloak himself in the daylight is going to be like, oh, now it's safe to come out. Okay, now I can run around and put my hat and cane on and work on my dance routine. So it's just absurd to think, especially we know this for a fact, and we have several points in here we'll bring out through the show. But the Demonologist by Gerald Brill, for example, there's notes for Demonologist investigations in there. They're really outdated. And Gerald Brill just printed what Ed and Lorraine told him. And one of them is that a notion, without quoting the book directly, and as we get in with the details of doing these videos, we'll have bullet points and everything. Just not just live video like we saw with Tucker Carlson earlier. There's going to be, we'll just have the page quote. But the point is that the idea is like a demon approach, a conical whirlwind, and when the lights dimmed in the room, the reference is made to something that was probably the L. Hans Holzer school of thought, that like the demon needed this energy to manifest. That's why you see like a little electric bolts and stuff or whatever. I mean, not bolts so much, but charges or something like it's actually drawing energy. Demons are self-contained. They don't need to draw energy and to manifest. It's very different. They're thinking about some ideas about ghosts too, like why they manifest during storms, for example, ghosts. But the reality is demonic spirits, if it's a light, they don't like lights. You've seen this in enough movies. They turn the lights out before they come. And so if you have an ultraviolet camera on, isn't that kind of like to them? I mean, we can't see it because it's too bright for us or too high in the spectrum. For us to see, it's out of our visible spectrum. Because, to some point it becomes a little more like radiation than it is something that's luminous for the spectrum that our eyes can see. But for them, that might be the big bright light that keeps them hiding in the dark. So how much luck do they have on this, Denise, to catch shadowy movements that aren't just a guy who's too embarrassed to mention that, I walked by the camera, my team leader is going to be pissed that I followed this up, because I'm just going to let him think it's just a demon,
Well, it's kind of hard to see dark on dark, So if you're trying to find a shadow figure in the dark, good luck, So, because I know I've looked. I can't see a shadow in the dark. So you're going to have some light anyway. But I haven't seen anything myself. I'm not going to say about everybody else. I haven't seen anything that anybody's brought to me that says, oh my goodness, you got the Holy Grail. You got a spirit manifesting right there in front of us. I have a few things that are maybe close, but nothing where I'm going to say definitively and put my name on the line to say, hey, you've got something there. I don't know about anybody else out there, but people believe that they do. I mean, somebody shared recently a picture on Facebook of a red mist during the day that showed up in their camera. Well, what could that be? Could there been a bunch of bugs flying around?
A smoke bomb?
Could have been. But like I said, if I'm not there, and I think a lot of paranormal investigators are like this, they're skeptical if they weren't there. If they weren't in the location to experience it with them. When you were talking about the Pythian Castle, I've seen many spirits there. Never, I don't need the lights off to see them. They are there. And when you said dark, yeah, I've been attacked there twice already. Something very dark is there. But do you have to have the lights off to see them?
No, you don't. I agree with you 100%. I've been to Pythian with Ken, and the camera had the lights on, and it said the spirit's right there, and Tamara said, everybody sees the spirit there, that she goes, we had psychics in here and everybody. And so, yes, we did see spirits with the naked eye. At Pythian Castle, you really can.
Yep.
But again, does it have to be totally dark? Maybe for some spirits. One of the things that I hear people say all the time is, oh, we got to investigate in the dark. Well, what if that spirit doesn't show up at night? What if it's only doing this stuff during the day? So you're going to miss it. They don't. Sometimes you have to take what the people are saying that are there, that are witnessing this stuff, as opposed to saying, oh, well, we need to investigate your house overnight. Well, if everything happens at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you kind of have to be there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, don't they have more fun in the dark? The people that go there anyway. It's like that's why we go to these haunted houses that have the props and the electric things and the actors, dressing like Frankenstein.
I mean,
I still like that.
Oh yeah, we went to a haunted house in Jeff City. That was the last one I went to. Lacey was a baby, so this has been 29 years ago.
Wow.
And 130
years ago.
Isn't
it nice to have a husband that keeps track?
Yeah. So we went, and I don't like those kind of haunted. Oh, he says my boyfriend.
Yeah.
So we went on this thing.
Sunday
I don't.
up.
Yeah. No, not yet. So we went through this haunted house, and of course I don't like them as far as that goes. I have never have ever since The Exorcist. Okay, because when I was growing up, The Exorcist was in every house, and it scared the living crap out of me, and I never wanted to go through another one again. So I went with Ron and his cousins and did this, and it was dark, and the thing is it was scary because you didn't know what was around the next corner. But your senses are also heightened because your vision has been diminished. Your sense of direction is gone. So when you're investigating, people like to do it in the dark because they tend to focus more on what they can hear and what little they can see. So, but I'll tell you, there are people that say, "Hey, I see orbs," and sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm looking around there. Oh, I see a blue light and I see a red light and all this other stuff, and I'm sitting there going, are you guys just squinting really hard? Because I see nothing.
Right.
If you hit your head hard enough, you can see stars in the dark, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, and Ron's been the same way. He's going, I see nothing. Me either. Except for one time we did see something. But, most of the time, it's the dark. I don't think the dark makes a difference unless that spirit is coming out in the dark. Now, if it's a demon, maybe you're right. Maybe they do shut off the lights. But are they going to shut off the lights during the day?
Well,
is it still going to be bright?
I think the only thing I can say about that is in a pitch black room, no street light, whatever, and it can't be. Don't do the the cameras. It can't be any light, ultraviolet light that you can't see. It's got to be pitch black. That's when, if you see a demon, hooded specter like I've seen, and the one that's shaped more like a shaped form like the Oscar, trophy, just head and shoulders. Can't tell if it has hair. It could be bald and naked as far as you know. And you don't really recognize that they might even have arms, as though when the bodies separate the arms, like Oscar, like I said, as though the arms are pinned to the side. Sometimes you don't even see the arms unless they're outstretching. But they're darker than the dark room, and that's a very key characteristic. But I don't even know. I think the people are doing it for reasons that you said, Denise and Michael. This is, I guess a way for them to, probably say that they're going to have more experiences in the dark than not. Well, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, we don't turn out the lights. But...
Well, I'm an old man, so I can't be up at 2 a.m. So I usually wrap up my investigations by 9 or 10 o'clock, or sometimes I head out in the afternoon and do it. If there's something demonic there, we'll stir it up. A lot of times I will just walk into houses and felt it. Yep, there's something here. So I don't need to take my cameras and do an investigation, then walk the house with some people or team that understands what's going on and how to feel the stuff through discernment.
Yeah, Farah.
What about the time? I thought I already commented earlier.
But the dark forms and why lights out.
Why do some appear when the lights are out?
That's viable. We want to know why they're turning the lights out. Do you think that
she's having a Debbie moment?
I'm having a little Debbie moment. Okay, because
keep the troops
I remembered the broad strokes, but I was having a little Debbie moment, trying to focus in on the little tiny details. Okay, so why would a spirit turn the lights off? Why do spirits have our phones call each other? Why do our spirits turn on a radio when we come in the room? Why do they do anything? I think that when you're looking at that sort of level of poltergeist activity, there's something that's been allowed in for some reason or another because A, either you've disturbed it, B, you invited it, 3, you walked in the middle of it and you're about to take something it wants, such as in, demonic attachments to, places or items, and they definitely don't want, their favorite box that gets people to slice their throats open. They don't want it going home with somebody that's really holy and is going to, use it to put their favorite Bible in and sprinkle it with holy water, heaven forbid. So there's any number of reasons that negative energies, as like some of our friends like to call them, or demonic spirits, as we like to call them, whatever they've been given license to do, they're going to try to intimidate, to create chaos, to scare you, and basically make you want to puke your guts out. But you know what? Lights out doesn't do anything except, yep, I got my cat eyes on. What do you want?
I agree, Farah. Spirit is nothing but energy.
Yep.
And they can't tell time.
No.
But they can feed off your fear.
Got that right.
Your fear can bring it out.
Like cockroaches to a meal. It's like, oh yeah, come on, have fun. Definitely, dude.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Well, the majority of the...
I was just going to say, I think one of our first fears, I think, is the fear of the dark.
It is.
And, that's a common human reaction that pretty much is universal.
Yep.
And so, turning out the lights, making it dark is like as they, has already been said here. It's not for them.
Yep.
It's
and by doing that, seeing in the darkness, it gives them more energy. The more you have fear, it feeds off your energy, and you create it even bigger.
Right.
So you might experience more things in the dark because of that. Because you got guys like Brian Harnois that looks like an old Three Stooges, comic reel. His eyeballs are as big as like, was that a ghost? Remember that? That was the old ones are funny. They have some characters in there just for the entertainment factor. They should have put somebody, like some of these guys in put somebody to like the new Jerry Lewis type or something, and that would have been really funny. Run off, lady! Lady saying your ghost is after me.
But looking at the bigger picture of investigations, this is why I had to put this book out, you guys. there are reasons. Like, let's take, for example, in that movie, Deliver Us from Evil. And they had gone into that, I think it was a lower Brooklyn flat. And it was one candelabra, a chandelier style, hanging from the ceiling. No matter what light bulb they put in it, no light would stay lit. It'd go out. All right? Now, as an investigator, as, somebody that already has an idea what's going on, I wouldn't automatically assume that that's demonic. I'd look at the fingerprints. Where else are the fingerprints? Sometimes when you get into an investigation, you find out that this is why you have to use your power of reasoning and you have to use your powers of deduction. Let's say you've got a kitchen light. You come home from work at 5 o'clock. You turn on the light. You get ready to make dinner. Okay, dinner's ready. It's done. 6 o'clock, 6:37. All of a sudden, the light goes out. At least 2 or 3 times a week, and you can't figure out why, but you think, you're obviously oppressed because, there's a strange smell and lights are going out. It could be something as simple as old wiring. It could be something as simple as a short overload in somebody's old house where...
Yep.
It could be something as simple as that. And the smell, well, a raccoon or possum baby backed up into its pipe directly underneath the floorboards, and you've got major skunk smell that's just wafting up only when the oven is turned on and it gets warm in there. But see, people don't think that far. They're like, oh, it's a nasty smell.
Definitely right. You're definitely right about that.
We've had stuff like that happen. It's like, okay, let's look at it, folks. It's, it's probably not demonic. It's probably usually a very simple explanation of, why these things happen. And we really have to look at logical causes and not jump to every little solution that, oh, yeah, it's demonic. Oh, yeah, it's spiritual. Chances are it's spiritual. Chances are, you haven't been as good as a kid as you could have. You probably stole your brother's Oreos, and you probably didn't take the garbage out. But that's besides the point, So let's get to the bottom of the easy stuff first, and then we can tackle the bigger picture.
Oh, that's for sure. And I think that's something we should address, too, is you ever mentioned, this might be an interesting roundtable thing and stay on this topic because it's definitely paranormal investigations because it's the lower level phase, and this covers exactly. And that is, name one case or experience that you had where, even if you never been on a case before, I mean, people might have had something like, oh, then I found out it was just a dog wagging his tail. Thank God for that. I mean, name a case or whatever, that you can think of. Start with Michael, where it turned out that it was just something natural. And you're like, thank God for that. Or, yeah, good for them, that it wasn't demonic and it was just a person's imagination or something natural. Michael?
Well, one of the hardest ones I had to work on was one of the women I was working with was bipolar. And she thought that witches were coming in talking to her and stuff. It was pretty convincing, though. I had to discern whether it was demonic or bipolar. But she was just adamant that it was demonic, so we went over to her house. Like I said, we walked the house while this stuff was happening. And she goes, they're right there talking to me. So I went and stood. I said, were they talking to you at? She goes, right here. So I stood right in the spot and started praying. And I said, still talking to you? She goes, yes. I said, I don't think this is something demonic. This is something you're projecting in your mind. And she still didn't want to believe it. I didn't feel any of the presence of witchcraft or demonic in there because I usually feel it right away. But it's something to this day we still had to work with her with. She swears. But I said, no, that's bipolar. You got a partner that took on the part of being attacked by a witch.
Or she's oppressed.
There's oppression there too. But it's kind of hard to work with these people because you can't get them stabilized or to be more Christ-focused. Yeah. They just want to run off and just get help from everybody.
Oh, yeah, that's the biggest heartbreak, Michael, isn't it? They want to help them, but they can't get beyond that scope of where they see the edge of the fence. They don't see what's beyond that fence. I think that's the most frustrating. And I'm sure, Chris, you deal with that all the time, don't you, Chris?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We have, of course, in my line of work, we have people that, have their brains have been affected by substance use, but other times they have what they call the dual diagnosis with the mental issues. And so, hey, I have a lady that, she came in and insisted that they were just bugs in her house, and she just can't get rid of them, and no one else could see them. But, she showed me these sores on her body and arms and her face, and I said, she wanted me to pray. She's like, I think it's, I really think there's something demonic in my house, it's like where these bugs are coming from, and they always disappear when everyone else comes in, and I just think it's the devil trying to drive me crazy.
Oh, like, poor thing.
Okay, but, I promised, I prayed with her, in the office, and gave her a blessed medal. That seemed to do it, and lo and behold, she was, when I was talking with, nursing and the doctor, she was also dipping into, meth and just kind of hallucinating and picking at her skin, and that's of course where the bugs were coming from, and so that's one of the more tragic examples we tend to run across.
That's so awful. Oh my gosh. Sadly, though, I think that is becoming more common, whereas because a lot of these street drugs are becoming so readily available and so easily available for people, and some of the sadder, poorer sections are very limited into what they can get their hands on, and some of these easy to tap into drugs are absolutely destroying them on levels neurologically that they never get back.
Right, and what didn't help was that she had a so-called friend that she knew who she described her as a medium, came in and told her that, she'd walked through her house and told her, this back room, I see in my mind there's a small girl and her face is all bloody, and I think something bad happened to her back here, and so it was just kept building up in her mind. Of course, I had to kind of talk her through that and say, let's put our faith in God more than we put our faith in things like that. So
exactly.
I thought, are you kidding me? Stop telling these sick people these things. You're not helping at all.
Oh my gosh.
Well, looks like we're going to do our usual top of the hour break as we do, and we thank you for listening tonight. We have a second hour to go, and then we're going to take our quick 2-minute break and be right back. Demonology Today TV, The Real Deels, with Denise Pridemore, Deb Johnson, Michael Norton, and Christopher Sampson.
The Samsonator.
I left a P out of your name once, so sorry about that, Chris. No, not Samson, or Samsung.
We're going to have to get a picture of him holding his arms up between two pillars.
Yeah, that'd be a good
I do have long hair, so.
Exactly. Yeah. We just need to find 2 pillars for you to stand so we can get a promo shot.
That sounds like fun.
The Samsonator is back.
Okay, guys, hang on there, and we'll be back. And there's more to come. This is Kenneth Deel along with my wife, Farah Rose Deel, and we're going to talk to you real quick about our books. We have 5 books available right now and 1 on deck. The books are the Catholic Demonologist Handbook, along with the
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Just a minute.
Okay. I thought he hung up on me, and that was my cue to go to bed. Maybe I was hoping that.
Yeah. He found you.
Hello.
Hello.
Here. Thought it was quiet.
Did you say something, Denise?
I thought it was awful quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you win anything in Vegas, Denise?
All right, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
So much for Vegas. Yeah, we're back live. Yeah, we had a little bit of rude awakening and a crash. Sometimes I think it's the software because there isn't anything else that cause it.
Call these.
Well, we're back. We're back. So let me see where we're at here, literally. And yeah, it usually does it when I make a change like that. But the cool thing is it's seamless, and that's the important thing. And when you notice anything in the archive, it'll just be this like all of a sudden popping in. Oh, yeah, hey, they're back already. Oh, what happened to the 2-minute break? Well, it was 2 minutes. But that's nice that we have a backup. Hey, we'll just like shut it down and restart it every hour. So okay, well, we are back for the second half. Next week we'll do a movie review and some of our normal segments, but we're going to touch a little closer on this topic. I'm going to pull up this thing. We're talking about the Demonologist by Gerald Burley the other day, and for Demonologists, a lot of them started with that as a template handbook. And I remember I was talking to Gerald one day, and he says that he got an unexpected royalty check because they had a seminar and several hundreds of people, bought the book for the seminar. In other words, it was going to be distributed to the 100 people, 100 or so. I don't know. There's several hundred. And because there wasn't anything out there, and this was years ago, of course. It's one of the reasons why we put the book out. But some of the things here, and we can address each one. We mentioned that about demons draw electrical energy because they use the energy, and we said, nah, that's not true. That they already have their own energy. It's set. It's predefined.
Ken, you feel that demons don't draw electrical energy?
Well, they can, but they don't need it. They already have they might manifest at a different level depending on how much legal rights you give them, but they're the same now as they were when they fell from heaven. So they don't need the energy to.
They have their own energy, but I have to disagree on a certain level about that. A demon can draw energy.
Well, they can. They drain your batteries. People with rechargeable batteries that like wrap them in aluminum foil and stuff when they go on investigations. There's some, it seems to be some liability, but they're not doing it because they need the power. Like, oh, I need more power. I must draw from. Where's the light socket? Oh, yeah, I am much more power now. I don't know. It's
a demon. If you are so fearful, and your family's there, and they're just as fearful as you are, the more you fear and that you're afraid, the more energy you are creating to give that demonic spirit more energy.
No, we're talking about electrical right here. That was the electrical, not emotional, psychological. The things that come from human. Because people in that sometimes they'll see an electrical charge. Looking arc come from their their aura or something is what that's how people describe it, and it's almost like you're being sucked dry, and then you'll be ultra tired. You'll sleep 15 hours the next day and you don't know why. That's what they report. I haven't had that happen yet, but I always going in full armored. Denise, you might have experienced that yourself.
Oh yeah. Up until this last visit at the Sally house, every time we've been, we leave, and a lot of people call it paranormal hangover. It's not paranormal hangover when you're standing there giving tours all day for 5 hours in one place, and then you leave for a little bit and you come back and you do it for 3 more. It's not paranormal hangover, and it's not because I've been sitting there visiting with everybody, making sure everybody has a good time. it's because I'm totally drained from something in that house was using my energy to do things all day long. Not that I gave them permission or anything like that, but they were sucking me dry. And I tell you, on Sundays, after we do that on a Saturday, we're sleeping. I mean, it's not just me, it's Ron, it's anybody that we've had in there with us for a long period of time. This last time, it wasn't like that, and I'm not going to go into details, but we did not leave there exhausted on the 9th.
That sounds like something that I don't think that when we were talking about that you had to happen, Farah, but I know you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
The case of some sort of like energy vampirism from dark spirits.
Yeah.
Michael, anything to add? Christopher? Personal experiences, so forth, validation?
I've never had energy vampirism going on, but like I said, early on in my days, tried covering of a church. Whenever my wife and I prayed for intercession against something demonic, we did have the fire alarms go off right then and there to the whole house. It was always like a little fire drill going on. So we knew they could manipulate electricity. I didn't know if they were drawing from them. Yeah. I tend to think they draw more energy from trauma, like Deb was talking about trauma and fear.
Anxiety, stress. They love those negative emotions, whatever it is. Depression. It's
absolutely,
a beacon. It's like a flashing light.
And they absolutely love insanity. It seems like most of the people I work with, when they have some sort of demonic obsession or oppression leading to possession, it seems like the demon's number one goal is to get them into, like, strapped to a gurney and stuck in the county general.
Chris? Well, I never got Chris.
Yeah, I know.
What the heck? Where's Chris?
We're talking to Chris, and where did he go?
Oh, wait a minute. I guess not.
Oh my God.
Get him back on the line.
We got to draw in Chris. I forgot we have more than 3 people tonight.
He's such a Ken.
Totally.
Hello.
Totally. We have Nortonisms, a Samsonator, such a Ken, delightful Denise, and defabulous Deb. And Miss Funkadelic that don't give a flock. Did I say that? I apologize.
You're flabulous.
Yeah, I'm flavonoid, all right.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, we're trying him right now, so when Christopher gets in there, let's explain what we're talking
there he
about.
is. He's here. You know, we're sitting there talking to you, and you're not answering. You're like pulling a Deb, washing dishes or something.
I know my phone just went dead, and I was like, "Oh no, I've been disinvited."
Oh no!
You got washed off the Hurricane Island. Oh no, that's not funny. I apologize. There's so many people suffering right now. It's just so horrendous. Spare a prayer, man, for all those people. Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, San Marino, all those islands. Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
I like Puerto Ricans. So, Christopher, what we're talking about? What were we talking about again? No, I'm just kidding. You know the way negative spirits draw and feed on. You know, we don't know exactly what it is. We think it's draw. It's like a moth to flame.
He's trying to say, do the negative energies or do spirits need our energy to feed off of, or do they have their own?
Wow, you're gonna make me think deep thoughts.
God forbid.
How dare you? You know, my gut answer would be, you know, speaking just from what I understand theologically, is that they don't necessarily need it. They you know, they're spirits. They don't really need anything. They're the only thing that they do get, I think, is just from causing us misery. And I don't think it necessarily feeds them. It's just something they delight in. You know, much.
Okay, now is that human spirits or inhuman?
Inhuman.
Yeah, human spirits can't get anything from it either. It's not like they can go, I think I'll draw some electrical energy so I can manifest. They're not any smarter than Patrick Swayze trying to push a nickel, you know, in that movie Ghost. You know, I mean, what are they going to do? Your demon mentor is going to teach you how to do more? No, he's if anything, it's going to lend you power, but you're going to be stuck with the same elements that you would have if you're, we're in this world. I honestly think. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say. I think, because they're spirits, the demons, that just because they create fear in 100 people doesn't mean necessarily that they become more evil or they gain any more power in hell. That's just where they're at. They'll have their assignments, and anyway, like I said, that's just my gut reaction from what I understand theologically.
Yeah, that fits too, because it's like the poltergeist thing they used to call. And they keep changing the definition of it. It began with noisy ghosts, and this is a paranormal investigators note too. And then it went to it's a child going through puberty causing paranormal disturbances around. It's supposed to be their PK energy, but the nature of the beast is that the demons delight in that negative energy, and so when that negative energy is no longer there, party over. Now, that's why they would suddenly leave, and it would there would be no more activity anymore, and it would disappear mysteriously. It somehow causes party on, Garth. I mean, it would continue and it would stay as long as it's through. It's like we'll get a call from somebody who hasn't talked to us in 2 or 3 years, and instead of starting up again. And the first thing I usually say is, did somebody lose a job? Is there some new stress? Oh, yeah, this and that. And usually there's more than one thing. And I said, well, you just invited them to a dance party. That you'll have to go and cleanse your house and tell them, run off, get out of here, put the remote down, put my chips back on top of the refrigerator, and quit drinking my beer. Get out of my house. So, yeah, it does seem like that's something to take note about. Anybody else want to add any comments on that one there? Pharaohs, Denise? Anybody?
Well,
Michael?
if I go anything on here, I'd like to go back to when you said cleanse their house, because that's one of the things that I think that needs to actually be out there, is how to truly cleanse your house. And, because we've got people out there using sage, we have people using all kinds of different things. So that would be something that paranormal investigators that are going into someone's house needs to understand more so than they do now.
Good point.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you might have to do that unwillingly. I mean, when we went to an interview, just to check out this, alleged, and everything was alleged when you go there, just like a cop, they're the suspects, possession case, it's like, did we think she was going to go fully under when we're there? No, but we were armed just in case, and I mean, I was just going to turn it over to a priest or something, and but you got to do what you got to do, so we just did a full, I don't know, deliverance, whatever denomination you call it. We can't call it an exorcism unless it's unless we're priests, and that's not the case. I mean, officially, yeah, this is some of the terminology stuff I know with poltergeist. And then now we're more into the spiritualism side out there as a whole in the paranormal world of investigators. I saw a big leaning at one time to where there was a lot of science types out there. The problem is the evidence isn't leaning science, so people eventually just discard it. And maybe too much now, relying too much on the sensitive on the team. Or an alleged demonologist who's calling everything a demon because it's got some footprints. That's why you got to carefully look. I mean, we're not going to do about demonic investigation stuff. As we're going to talk about that mostly. The earmarkings itself can be a telltale trait, and some of them can't be ignored because they are absolutely like when you're looking for signs of possession. So, anything to add, Farah?
Nothing I can think of, dear.
I wanted to know, and everybody. Farah's got to get up early for some photography.
Yeah, I'm going to sneak out of here in 9 minutes so you guys won't even hear me hit the floor.
She's got to go to bed early because it's very early.
Oh, that's not fair, sister.
Too bad, so sad. You sneak out plenty of times when he doesn't call you back, or you won't pick up your phone.
Oh, we have Denise here. That's right. And we have Christopher. We have Michael.
That's right. Just to happen, we got an extra, person.
Christopher and I could sneak out.
You're not doing any photography in the morning, so Deb, you had no excuse.
Yeah.
So keep
Deb, we had supervised. We did that.
Laptop open.
Thank you. We all need Deb's supervision. That's a good point. Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah, this stuff is very close to home to Deb. She got to see it when she didn't want to first. She wasn't interested in that aspect at all. Everybody's a little fascinated with the paranormal or the mysterious, the unknown, unsolved mysteries.
That was a good show, though.
Yeah.
Oh, that was one of my favorites growing up. It's like, whoa, Bermuda Triangle. Whoa. I mean, what wouldn't they stick their nose in? It was just fascinating.
And then before that, we had In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy and Mr. Spock.
Yep, Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah. But everybody's got that curiosity. So, I think to some degree everybody can relate to this stuff. Now, there's the paranormal TV shows. Have they grown? Are there new ones on TV? I mean, there was new ones every season at one point.
Yeah, there's new ones this year.
Oh, yeah? What's the new ones this year, for curiosity's sake?
The one that just ended was The Low Files with Rob Lowe and his sons. There was that, and then there's a new one coming on called Ghosted, but it's a comedy, so it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Because, because we all sit here, I'm going to tell you, I know every paranormal investigator sits here and says something at TV, while Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, Paranormal Lockdown, any of those shows are on, we are all providing our own commentary.
Yep.
And it's not always flattering, and it's not always right, and it's not always wrong. But it's just kind of funny that they're actually now coming out with a Ghost and Mrs. Muir. That's what this Ghosted is going to be. It's going to be not the Ghost and Mrs. Muir, but the same kind of concept, Ghosts in your everyday life. And last year we had Ghost Brothers. They're supposed to be coming back. I thought they were funny.
They were funny.
Yeah, I like them. And Ghost in the Hood.
Ghost in the Hood, that's it, yep.
That one there, I love. How many Velour's running suits did that guy have?
Oh,
I did not know that they still made them.
The tuxedo, the suede tuxedo, what it was called, yeah.
Yeah.
What was that?
And the drive-by funeral home.
Yeah.
That was haunted. I was like, oh. But it's funny to watch, but yet it's good. They're not taking themselves so seriously that they can't have a good time. So
yeah, the comedy element, to not take it seriously. It's like the sci-fi thing. There's this one that's kind of like the funny version of Star Trek. That guy who created Family Guy's in it.
Yeah.
But nothing really can top the Three Stooges running and whoop 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 whoop. Running through a haunted house, every little thing, and getting scared from each other, and then and one slamming out, "Let me in, Mo, let me in," and they let him in and let the monster in with him, and the monster's in, and nothing tops that,
And and you can't forget the one that got most of us started was actually Scooby-Doo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is not one of the Scooby-Doos wasn't ever really a ghost. It wasn't ever really a Bigfoot, and it wasn't ever really an alien. And that's the part that...
Disappointing?
Well, yeah, it was disappointing. But the thing is they used logic to figure out what was going on. And that's one thing that sometimes gets missed in paranormal investigations. I'm hearing scratching on the walls. Must be a demon. Well, it could be birds. It could be a rat. It could be a raccoon got into your basement and is climbing up the wall. You don't know how many hamsters kids lose. Because we lost a lot when I was a kid. We had scratching in our walls all the time. But those are some of the things I think that get lost in the real world of paranormal investigating. Because, on TV, when it happens, they don't have time to go and hunt down to see if there's a rat in there. So, but logic is one of the things that's missing. Even with the history portion that you started off talking about. Sometimes the logic is totally lost in that on the route that you should go to even investigate the history of the house. They just go out and look on the internet and say, everything I need is right here on the internet. Well, no, it's not.
Sad.
I know.
That is really sad because that really, really, really does your client a disservice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because you're getting urban legend.
Yep.
You're getting other stuff that may or may not have to do with it. Yeah, opinion. And you're pulling up the same stuff that the other people pulled up that went before you, more than likely, if you're not the only team that's been in their home. And that's another thing. How many teams have been in the home? Are they looking to be on TV? Carl in the chat room, he actually had people, he showed up to help at their house, and they go, well, when is this going to be on TV? That's a whole other issue altogether. I mean, this is a spider web of things that all starts off with one thing and goes off into 5,000 others. So how many people contact you guys and think that you're going to be in there videotaping it and sharing it with the whole world?
That's what most of them want. I say some, but a lot of them are like, oh, yeah, well. Yeah. And they just want to hear their story over and over again. It's very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I don't even want to watch myself on TV.
Well, the older we get, that's true. Yeah. But, I can share that with you.
And it's like when they had played Where Demons Dwell, in our case, on Discovery, I watched it one time, and one time only. Plus, they sent me a DVD, and I have that put away. And people will always instant message me, or they'll call me and say, you're on TV. It's like, I won't watch it. I saw it once, and I won't watch it again.
Yeah, Deb's not.
I get that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I've been there, I've done that. I don't have to see it. I remember it. You know?
You survived it. And I don't know. There's something about that doesn't really make a difference to me anymore. My whole job is to give people a good tour and make sure that they're safe. And when we were talking about this show a month ago now, that was my whole thing, is how do I keep people safe during a tour of a haunted location if I don't know what's going to come after them? Because everybody's out right now going, rubbing their hands together going, I'm going to have a paranormal experience. Oh, this is great. I'm going to one of the most haunted houses in the United States. I'm going to have a paranormal experience. And they are already wide open for something bad to happen.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you don't know who the weakest one, who the weakest link is in your group that you're taking out.
Nope.
And it's usually the weakest one that'll bring home an attachment.
Yeah, the weakest link. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you can't see who's going to be attacked. They might not see anything at that moment, or maybe out of the whole group that you take out, maybe one or two will just see. And it's the only reason why one or two will see is because they're on that level, they're on that plane. So everybody does have a psychic gift, but you don't know who it is, and they don't even know who it is, them themselves, until they're alone.
And see, that's the part that scares me about hosting tours in a location. It doesn't matter which location. Because, honestly, you could walk into Walmart and say the same thing. I'm going to have a paranormal experience today, and still get possessed in Walmart. Not only could you get possessed at the Sally House, I could get possessed in Ken's yard. I won't do that, though. But,
oh my God, it's so strange that you...
watch.
Denise, it's so strange that you said Walmart. Because listen to this. When my son passed away, my oldest son passed away, I went and got a suit for him and, everything. And then I found out I had to have a closed casket, so I returned everything. When I was in Walmart, I saw my son. And I chased this guy down. I ran through the friggin' aisles, and this guy kept avoiding me. And then he disappeared. So I knew when I saw my son. So, yes, it can happen even in Walmart.
Yeah. Sounds like a movie.
Oh, no, it was real, Ken.
No, I mean, that's... I think that's why some of these movies are based on real-life encounters, and then people are like, yeah, whatever, They
I
believe
saw
the
my
Exorcist.
son, and no one was going to take it away from me, and I ran after this guy. And it was like this guy kept, like, floating through the aisles, you know? And so I had to run faster.
Exactly, Anne and Nicole. I mean, you just don't know until you've
And then
encountered something like that.
it just disappeared. You know?
How long ago was that?
Crazy. That was when her son died.
After?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't know. I thought it was more recent. Did you tell me that story before?
No, that was when Jason passed away, and I was returning his suit. You know, because I was going to bury him in a suit. He never wore a suit. He wore a tuxedo at his wedding, but he was always a jeans type of guy, t-shirt or a plaid shirt or a white shirt and a pair of jeans. But I wanted to have him in the suit. But when I got him back, after I saw him, it's like, they said it's got to be a closed casket. You know? So I was returning the suit, and so I was walking through, and that's when I had seen him. And I ran through like I said, I ran through the freaking store like an idiot. I said, that's my son, that's Jason. I said, everybody's just effing with me, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty scary. You always pray for your deceased relatives. Don't assume they're in heaven just because your preacher says they are. We don't know. I mean,
we don't know where they go. When you die, when a loved one dies, we don't know where they go. We don't know if they have to go to purgatory to purge or not. And, we haven't been judged yet. So when people say, that the brightest star and so-and-so in the sky, no. That makes us feel better, but that's not the case. We don't know where our loved ones go when they die.
Yeah, if you smooth it over too much and they won't even think about them or pray for them anymore, and they might be in a place where they really have to do some major community service, and you can still do a charity for them. So, and look at it this way: if you say the prayers don't go to waste no matter what. Let's say you pray and you don't
never
know
go to waste.
so-and-so has got a job and you've been praying for 3 extra months because they went overseas and you haven't been in touch with them. You really think that God's going to take the prayers and just throw them in a trash can? No, they'll go to something else. They'll go to something else probably related to the person you're praying for. So prayers are never wasted. So like you're saying, I'm not praying for the dead. That's a Catholic belief or something.
No, even when you say the rosary every day, for every prayer you say, that releases a soul in heaven from purgatory.
Yeah. We're a big one on the rosary. We spend a lot of time getting people to say that first if they, can't go to church for whatever reason, because a lot of handicapped people will get demonized. And then we spend a lot of time on the psychological. Well, at least we get to put our training to work. Me and my wife actually went to school for, psychology, but we didn't complete it. I didn't like the, making money at that sort of thing, but it's funny how we ended up using that a lot more than we thought to do kind of an initial, are they demonized or are they psychologically, having issues more? And it seems like that's the big question more now. But I think that's the big question to such a degree that who is going to pull it off? Because some people are too quick to say it's a demon, other ones are too quick to say it's all mental. Isn't that true, Mike?
I'm sorry, I was typing. What's that again? I was sleeping. I was typing back to Farah. Well, yes, that is true, Ken. Let me add to...
Yeah, exactly. Just
you can pretend like you know what I was talking about, like Farah.
Right. I totally agree with what Deb and Chris said. I'm on that 10%, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness, that's so funny.
I got the chat. I'm sorry.
Always 10%. We always hear that.
I don't know.
Always 10%.
We can always let Christopher answer, and then, by the time Christopher answers, Michael will glean enough information to be able to answer the question.
Yeah, well, okay, Christopher, what the heck, So, well, I'll let Mike have his Deb moment. Christopher.
Help, Christopher.
Yes. Sorry. I am right by the road, so I'm kind of hearing little bits and pieces.
You're not supposed to park by the bar.
I know, right? You're all a drunk
Well, for some reason,
for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, for some reason, Well, for some reason, I swear someone sent out a memo and said, bring all your noisy motorcycles down and ride them along the road at this time.
Oh, I know. That'll drown everything out. Well, that's okay.
No.
We're just talking about did you hear the gif of it? Kind of like so you can, you don't have to respond necessarily on what was said, but the general topic of, this psychological versus spiritual.
Well, yeah, I think, I was just going to say, I think that, I was kind of taking in everything from when you played that Tucker Carlson thing all the way to now, and just kind of thinking about, we live in a society that tends to, you have the people that, anything goes, any path goes, to God and the divine. And we've had conversations before about, people looking into broadening their walk with the Lord and being told, well, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
If you're going to Buddha or to Allah or anything, just as long as you have an experience of the divine within yourself, versus people that just outright, there's no proof of God, and much less a proof of the devil. I was thinking about the self-proclaimed witch on the Tucker Carlson thing, the Wiccan thought and belief of that is that, there is no such thing as evil because it's all just an aspect of nature. And nature is not an evil thing, but that is so non-sequential in thought because what then am I protecting someone from? And, we get into, of course, my line of work, and all of us that, have experience with, dealing with the whole, is this an actual thing? Is this an actual demonic thing, spiritual thing, or is this a mental issue? Is this an emotional issue? What exactly is going on? On one side, I think, of course, the end times, they are coming. And I think the more that the signs are clear, the more temper tantrums the enemy is going to have, and so that line is going to become even more blurred. On the other hand, what is going on? It seems like people are having what we call more and more mental breaks because heightened stress, constant threat of terrorism, warfare, threats to the family. My gosh, we all know, because we've all talked about, people today don't even know who in the heck they are.
True.
Am I a guy? Am I a woman? Well, what do I feel today? Well, that's who I am. And how dare you say otherwise? It's like I said, it's not as clear cut probably as it used to be. It's just I always, at least I hope that whoever is investigating takes time. Time, I think, is a factor before going to the next step.
Don't rush.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Good advice. And that's what we need. We want to make this show a companion show to other ones. Of course, this is the first TV version. As we go on, we're going to do a lot more video and so forth to make our case in the form of presentation. Farah, do you have anything you'd like to add to that before we chalk on to the next one?
So you're going to skip Michael completely. I like how you treat him because he couldn't even remember what that question was.
I'm in the penalty box. Is that what happens?
Yes, you got smacked in the penalty box. What was the question again?
She's having a Debbie moment. What was the question again?
And I think he just fell off his chair. Poor guy. He's running around the house now. I think he's frustrated with me. It's okay. He'll
should we dial 911? Or are you okay in there? What's that?
No, what I'm going to I'm just going to have to use this Vaseline I got on the desk and rub the carpet. Maybe I'll slip and fall back in the chair.
I was going to say, do you need an old priest and a young priest? Because we can... the power of Christ compels you.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Come at him.
Oh, no, he'll get over it in a minute.
Sarah, be careful. He might grease the toilet seat with Vaseline in the middle of the night, and you get up and go to the bathroom.
I guarantee you that would be the last time. I can do things to toilets that men could not possibly understand. I grew up with hunters. I played with bullets with seals. You know, Green Berets, you know. We sat and ate ice cream and picked bark off trees and chewed
You know how we all get up in the middle of the night and we don't bother turning the light on?
No, nobody does, right? So what's, you know, it's like, what could, you know, Ken, we were just saying how you ran away from me when I couldn't remember the question. You okay now?
No, I'm not the one who has the problem remembering the question.
No, because he has his bullet points in front of him.
Exactly.
I thought someone else did. The worst part of this is, why didn't somebody else jump in on that one? It's like, what was Ken talking about?
I was trying to. We were talking about greasing toilet seats. There was just no way to move back in.
No,
Yeah, we're way past it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got changed.
In other words, you didn't miss
go
anything.
over the flow.
No,
you know?
I was actually talking about, you know, taking some nice heavy-duty commercial-grade saran wrap and putting it over the bowl.
But then, Farah, you'll have to clean the bathroom.
So I walk away from
Unfortunately.
for 5 seconds, and you guys start on inappropriate stuff. Sorry, Bishop Rice.
We're
I'm
talking.
super
I had
nice,
nothing
you
to do with
children.
it.
We're talking
I had
about, you
nothing.
know,
We're
hunting
making
pranks.
us do anything.
We're talking about hunting pranks, you know. And these are wouldn't a ghost do that to you, Ken?
Hunting pranks? Well, first off, they don't.
These weren't hunting
They're not
pranks.
hunting
This is
me.
what we do at home, Ken.
Number 2, ghosts don't use toilets. Do you guys remember that part?
Oh,
Have
no,
you
but
ever
I thought,
heard of the story where
ghosts just
ghostly
couldn't.
poop showed up in a toilet? I mean, good grief.
I thought ghosts just couldn't spell. That's so
No, that's
bad.
demons can't spell. Remember
That's
that?
so bad.
That's one of the.
Really? Demons can't spell. I heard that recently, and all I could do was laugh.
No,
Well,
no,
you
it's
know.
that's what it's supposed to be. It's a joke, but there are a couple of people out there believed it, and somebody who calls himself Bishop actually wrote it in his book. It's that's what happens when you go and look up people on the web, you know, especially like 22-year-old kids who don't know, and they play too many video games. I think the only time I heard it was from no 2 people in a video game that I read when I tried to look it up. There's plenty more where that came from. One of the things I think is an interesting thing, and this one gets a little bit scientific, was this what they call haunting that they call residual. And,
Oh yes, the slime factor.
I was talking, and we were talking about Greg Myers. And,
I don't know him, thank you.
and I had a conversation with him about this years ago, and he was saying that they were saying that the limestone and so forth that are in the basement, because he was trying to come up with a scientific reason why an apparition was seen in the basement. You know, something that's more kind of a typical one that you can see in the dark, because it's like got this glow, or in other words, like a hologram. You know what I mean? And so the idea of residual is it's some sort of like a recorded playback. Someone died there and it somehow recorded an image, and you're saying the limestone properties and all that stuff. Well, I'm an electronics technician. What's that? Is it time to go, Farah?
I'm sneaking out the door.
Oh, well, you could just say bye to everybody.
I already did.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
Yeah, keep talking.
Bye, Farah.
I got the smoochy poochie.
Okay. All right, let's say bye to Farah. Bye-bye.
Bye, Farah.
Bye.
Stay focused now. Don't lose your train of thought.
Okay, anyway. So, look at it from a scientific standpoint, the YO residual, and especially if it's repeating. First, I did a Curling camera experiments. That's the camera that was able to see auras. For example, if you went into a room in front of the camera and you screamed and yelled, thinking about something that really made you mad, and then you moved. You had to hold still. You couldn't wave your arms all around like a drama queen or anything. When you moved, there was a trace of your aura, just a trace, an outline, still there, and it took photographs and it faded over time. And they did the same thing too when they got the trace of aura around the people still standing there, that it got larger and brighter when they were, like the person allowing themselves to think about something that upset them and started screaming about it, that it got stronger. Well, so you're thinking that, okay, so far we have evidence that we can have a little bit of a trace of something when you have an angry moment, but it's only the outline. It's not like, oh, there's his eyes, there's his nose, there's a whole ghost there. There's color, there's sound synchronized with it. How's that possible? You know what I mean? Like, did it record them screaming and yelling? Did it play it precisely the next night? Or was it only a one-time thing and it faded out? Well, the proof is there really isn't no proof that it does anything more than just a residual, which is when it's there for a little bit and then goes away. Even if you get your brains blown out because your spouse kills you or something, or some violent act. Most of the time people are dumbfounded first, like, you're not going to do that, and then they're not even going to be, the guy screaming has probably more negative energy than the guy getting shot, because the guy's like C-3PO in Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, like, what? Stormtroopers? What are they doing here? Oh my God, I'm shot! We didn't hear him say that. It happened so fast. He was thinking it was a computer brain, and then put it on his modem, to execute it into audio. So I'm talking, a little bit science in a kind of a very layman's and comical term, I guess, suppose there. But what about the viability? You ever experience this? That I think it's science again trying to explain the non-existence of an afterlife. They come up with the most ludicrous methods, and you got to remember where the source came from. Then you're going to find that I'm being scientific. See, I got my pens in my pocket here and a pocket protector. And I got a lab coat, and all that stuff, and now I'm a scientist. I'm surprised people don't do that more. Now it's the Roman collar, fake a Roman collar. I'm a Roman collar now. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I'm Father Kenny now. So where were you ordained at? Oh, Universal Life Church. No, Old Catholics. Yeah, that's right. No. But, and it's not too far out of the box, but what could possibly in any stone record something that has synchronized video and audio that's in color, or if it's grayscale, it's still 256 shades of gray, and it has, like, you can see it in the dark, because remember, these people go through the house and it's not there playing as day, when they're talking about it being a residual. So you got all these elements that says energy stored, energy played back in time, like and now if it was electronic, that would make sense. What was that, H.G. Wells? Wasn't there something in that old Time Machine movie and some other things, or Princess Leia asking for help from Obi-Wan Kenobi? If you had a projector playing in a different, that would make sense. Somehow some alien technology creeped into the house, and back in the old days, or some recent nerdy technology, and it's actually projecting a hologram. But what do you guys think about that? Who wants to start? Residual.
Residual. I'm not really sure. Yeah.
We can. I have a Star Wars computer.
Yeah, Star Wars Episode 7 computer.
Yeah.
This to be exact. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so residuals, I never really believed that part anyway either, kind of like you were saying, like the crystals were doing it or something. Because you hear people walking on stairs and stuff. That takes an awful lot of focused energy to replay place and time. Like coming from a physics background, if it's residual, it has to be that exact space and time mathematically to redo that. And that's impossible. Yeah. But on my second note, too, is when I used to work in robotics, we took one of those Xbox cameras, like Nick Groff has, to photograph the demons walking around, little hands and shoulders. in our lab, we can never get that software to work right. And we were seeing those all over our lab, those little people, because you stand or move, those little people will generate, like they show in the shows. Oh, look, there's a demon stand right there in the lamp, right? And that software was so faulty. I just laugh every time I see it. We saw the same thing in the lab trying to perfect machine vision with that cheap camera. It just didn't work right.
Yeah.
You see what I'm talking about?
What's that one called? It's just software, so they, right?
Is it they're using the Xbox 3D cam and to generate those little figures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? You know that one, Deb? Anybody?
No, I agree with Mike.
Okay.
You know, the only thing that I truly believe until this day, well, we can do things with our cell phones, but back in the old days, back in the 80s, was the Polaroid. It captured whatever you had right then and there.
Yeah, exactly as is.
Exactly. But our cell phone can do that as well. But, you know, you never know when people are going to touch up and use Photoshop on their phones. So I have to go with the old Polaroids.
Yeah, I'm going to say the original Polaroid, and and we'll know it's a Polaroid.
I know I'm old school, Ken, but I'm old. But with technology today, you can do so much. So I have a hard time believing people unless I actually take the photo myself.
Well,
and then you still have to look at the camera. If it's taken with a cell phone, did somebody add an app to it that? Because how many pictures have we seen out there that is the same little boy in a different picture all over the world?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's why I like Polaroid.
Yeah.
They still make those.
Coming back. Yeah, they do. They come back too.
Yeah, Fuji's got one.
I have all the Polaroid cameras. I have them all.
I think in the Demonologist in the middle, they got. I liked it when they had the photos in there. That was always a good, a nice touch. Fortunately, we don't do we're not into the captures at all. And a funny thing, when the one girl became possessed, it turns out I didn't have the recorder on either. That they shut it off. Sometimes the littlest things happen, you know, like not just your TV turning on and off, but we don't have any captures. We don't look for them. I mean, the church takes that word for it.
Back in the 80s,
not any,
when
but we have some
going
like
on,
that, you know.
We only used Polaroid. Now, whatever evidence was captured on Polaroid or on cassette, that was the evidence back then.
Yeah, and for some reason you needed more evidence back then.
Yeah.
But that's.
There was no touching up, no Photoshop.
Now we're talking digital cameras too, Deb. You know that we had a discussion. This is another good one too, and it's amazing that we've gotten so much to the show. We're going to go over as usual, you know, it's like we did before.
Of course we are, Ken.
But on audio too. But since we're talking about pictures first, is that digital is very different. That it goes through a digital analog converter on a recorder, and it's not the same. So, let's say you're that gal from the ring, and you're using your evil thought, telekinesis, I don't know, whatever they were trying to do in the movie, and you put these images on the X-rays like in the first movie, The Ring. Remember that when she was, and the psychologist had these. She was creating these images of rocking horse and other stuff on there. Well, if that was possible, and I don't think it's possible for a human to do that kind of stuff, since someone has that kind of direct thought and then can oppose it, because it has to convert that energy of thought to something that's going to affect the what an X-ray does, and actually know what an X-ray does. And but if you can, thanks for your input, Mr. Dog. If you can think about it in that form, but with the photos, we can trust the Polaroids, not just because of in other words, because of the format that it can't be messed with, but because it is more analog. It was actually trying to experience adjusted light and contrast, and then converting that, on a chemical level, chemically sensitive material, But now it's like it converts it to digital. So if they want to impose it on there, they have to either get in front of the camera to be snapped, and if they want to impose it on a digital camera, they actually have to convert it to digital before they impose it on the camera.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
exactly. And
yeah.
back in the 80s, when we were using the Polaroid and we were taking snapshots, because Ed kept saying, you got to keep doing one right after another, you know?
Yeah.
And we would shoot wherever David would say, over here, over there, you know, we would shoot it. I would constantly shoot it.
Yeah.
And what I would get was colors, different colors of here, there, and everywhere. And they were like, as Ed called it, they were globules.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't hear anybody ever talk about globules, but that's what Ed said they were.
Well, tell me about that. All right, tell me a little more about that, and keep going. What is that? I don't remember reading that term hearing before.
Those were the spirits, and Ed would call them globules.
Mm-hmm.
And we had blue ones, we had green ones, we had red ones. And those were the spirits that were there at that moment, because David would see where the spirits were, and he would tell us where to shoot the camera. And I was like, click, 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 all over the freaking place.
Yeah.
And,
did it happen?
you know,
Did you get
it would
some?
come out, it was great evidence for Ed and Lorraine, and he would say, they're here, they're there. And I remember doing it across my mother's drapes. Mm-hmm. And all the facial disfiguration of the demonic were on my mother's drapes that were actually there. I never talked about this.
Yeah, first time I heard
I'm
it.
bringing this now. I don't even know why the hell I'm bringing it up now.
Oh, that's okay.
You know,
it fits totally. Yeah.
Yeah, so once the Polaroid, you know, developed and everything, we were able to see and count all the demons across the drapes.
Mm-hmm. That was a pretty major case.
Once the picture developed, I looked at it and go, oh shit, oh, excuse me. And Lorraine goes, oh my God, and she kept looking at it. And it showed all the demonic faces across the drapes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and you're going to have to believe me, as you do always.
That's something. Yeah, and that's just an example. You know, that. Oh, you know what? This also reminds me. It's like when I was on the Children of the Grave shoot, and we went to Zombie Road. Don't go there because you know, it's patrolled and it's private property. We went out an hour into a location, and Judy Myers, God rest her soul, has passed away.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'd have to detail this in this. I don't trust sensitives. But she said, she told everybody to stop here. And so Keith Age started moving the thermal imaging camera, which is a 256 scale. It was you know, like the FLIR. Different model, but it was 256 shades of gray. So black showed up as colder than white, and that's how it worked. So he pointed it up the hill, and they got it. Unfortunately, according to Christopher Booth, the footage was all distorted, and that's typical, isn't it? It was, you know, it was being recorded, and they didn't get hardly anything. And I was thinking, wow, that was going to be fantastic because, you know, and I saw it, and they faded in, and they faded out, and that was not possible to reproduce, say, to fool us all or anything like that.
But Ken, I saw that too. I saw the spirits there too. Why is that?
Oh, I meant you didn't go to Zombie Road, but you went to Pithing Castle. That was another place that we went to.
No, these spirits were like on the hill.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you know what? I haven't talked about this in a long time because it's kind of straight.
I saw them.
Yeah, they some of the things I thought about. You know what it looked like? It almost looked like people standing there, you know, waiting for you because you were a member of the opposing side of the Civil War, and they're waiting to ambush you. But the interesting thing was I didn't see general hats, because they wore a separate hat, and distinctive, cowboy hats, or I didn't see that. I saw head and shoulder silhouettes again. You remember, like we're talking about with the Oscar, in different sizes. Short guys, tall guys. Why wouldn't I see, sleeves, collars, hair, hats? When we see the silhouettes, the same thing with the darkness. So I'm starting to.
Well, what I saw was the kids.
Yeah. Well, why kids even? What is it? Lord of the Flies going on? Are they? It's not.
I saw the kids' silhouettes.
Yeah. And that picture was legit. And that was exactly what we saw.
Yep, that's what I saw.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I was standing there, and he was holding that thing up, and I said, I thought I saw something by the tree, and I said, Keith, aim over here. We didn't get that on camera because it was all messed up. And I'm not giving myself credit. Else I would have mentioned this on every show, by default. But
I'll give you credit, Ken.
So yeah, he ended up there, and then he goes, nothing there, and he goes, oh, wait a minute, and then he held it still, and they faded in like some movie, or like I'm bringing in a Photoshop transparency. They started fading in, and there wasn't hardly any movement at all. And then they just faded out again. And it was like, that sounds like somebody's purgatory ghost will, totally ignore you. Sometimes there's a need for things to be played back in history, and there's always an intelligence behind it, is what I said, is what part of this thing about the phenomenon of residual hauntings. There's always an intelligence behind it. You're seeing that person commit suicide for a reason. Maybe they have to repeat that act every day until they appreciate the fact that, life is precious. You're going to be doomed to repeat. You ever hear that expression before?
Yeah.
Your suicide as part of your penance because you did not respect your life. Life isn't so bad, but you decided it was so bad you would just, destroy it. Maybe it's something like that. But that was a curious phenomenon. John Zaffis didn't go out with us, but he was at the hotel down, 4 hours from the location. He had to head back. But I talked to him about it, asked him what he thought, and we're all just like, I'm not really sure. It's like, what was the necessity? Why was this necessary? And people had been there before and seen the same thing. They didn't look like Native Americans. I mean, obviously, because there's no headgear, and typically when you see ghosts do appear. You see Civil War soldiers looking just like Civil War soldiers. This is what's stupid about Hadman and all that stuff. Hadman shows up with a top hat because everybody used to wear hats. Remember, they used to wear top hats. So you're living in a house.
Everybody wore a top hat. Yeah.
And the thing is they don't always have a top hat on, and
that's right.
People always look at me like I'm crazy when I say, "Hey, this guy was wearing a flat hat, not a top hat, a flat hat."
Remember how baseball caps were more popular since? I don't know if it's. I haven't got a statistic. 80s. Before that, you had another kind of hat. My dad wore one of those hats that looked like Britney Spears wore. I don't know what you call those. Remember, the flat.
A fedora.
On the top. What is it called?
A fedora.
Oh no, not a fedora. The
derby.
Flat. No, not a derby. That's Curly wore. Curly Three Stooges. It's like the ones you wear when you go golfing.
It was more flat top to the head, round to the head with just the brim.
Yeah, he didn't wear a baseball cap. Baseball caps weren't popular on that, and the kids wore the beanies with a propeller on the top. Anybody see Beanie Boy?
Irish.
Yeah, it was the round top hats that fit the head and just a brim.
The only thing we do know is that the top hat was worn by a particular cult's voodoo and their rituals, and very much in the afterlife, if you'll see a minion of demons, which are human condemned spirits, you might see them dressed in their traditional ritual garb, which could include a top hat. And then we had, on our show, our old show, Deb, we had a guy who was a suicide account. What was his name? And he said that when he had his near-death experience and he experienced hell, that the guy had a top hat on, like a mortician who drives those old horse carriages, like at
the horse-driven carriages. Yeah.
Sometimes the garb may denote what that garb used to, mean. You know what I mean? So I think people aren't looking at the right thing about that, and such a thing as like what does the top hat mean? You know, is it a period costume or outfit that the person was more recognized in, Civil War ghost, or seen as Civil War ghost?
Or maybe we're all seeing Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And every bowler hat with a stout body is clearly the Three Stooges. You know.
Yeah. See, you got to pay attention here, Ken. Got to stick with what everybody knows.
Right.
But yeah, that's one of the things that always gets me. I saw a hat man. Like, okay, well, what kind of hat? Well, a top hat. Well, why do they all have to have the same one? Oh, and he's evil.
Yeah.
No matter what, he's evil.
This is good
Yeah,
notes.
Because that guy gave us his book, and he signed it, and we've had him on the show, and I was just looking in my bookcase just now, real quick, and I don't see it in there, but I know I have it. What was his name? Do you remember?
Shoot. I lent it to my dad, and then he passed away, and then I didn't see it in the books, but then again, it turns out a big box of books. My sister just, gave it away to Goodwill. I don't know what that was all about. So.
I know I have it somewhere in here.
I mean, if you did Wayback Machine, you can see on her old page or something, probably find out what it was. But he was an Orthodox, instead of Catholic, the other traditional Christian. And he was a Vietnam, or one of those war vets, not, Operation Iraqi Freedom or anything like that. But I don't know. So people have seen the hooded specters, and those are specific. We can give them a relating, and Michael Norton, you know what I'm talking about. But Hatman, what do you think about Hatman relating to a cult or whatever they expect to see them when they conjure or do a ritual? I mean, anything related to that you can think of?
Well, I was going to ask you about this guy for a long time. That's why I was kind of sitting back and listening to this conversation. Yeah. I've seen it through voodoo. People have dealt with voodoo, or some voodoo curse is on them. That's where I've seen Hatman. So I was always curious what your take was on this. It was a guy with a top hat. One time somebody said they saw him come through the wall, and we're dealing with a voodoo curse. The other time I was actually dealing with a ritual abuse survivor. It turned out she was with a pornography ring, and whoever programmed her was a voodoo priest. And that demon that was in there was Hatman.
Mm-hmm. There's variations of voodoo, too, that, can go to the Latino communities. The Philippines.
Now, Michael, when you talk about Hatman, is it the tall hat, or is it
It's the top hat. He has a top hat.
Top hat. That's the most common.
It's a top hat. Yeah.
All right.
And that's true too. That's that's exactly what our experience has been. Is it's been related to voodoo at the house.
My own knowledge, because when we had moved into the house in Brookfield, my parents' house. My mother would always see a man standing at the foot of her bed wearing a brown derby.
See, a brown derby.
And so that didn't come out till years later, But she just ignored him, and she was all right with it. And then we had no problem until the possession.
What's weird about this, too, and I mean weird is we don't want to think too much about it. Our heads will explode. Is that whenever you're a Satanist or whatever, there's a lot of promises made. We know Satan has this kind of you ever see that movie Wishmaker or Wishmaster or one of those? He makes promises that can
long time ago.
You said you always wanted to be a great swimmer, and then you die drowning, and then he's telling you that when you're drowning, that you can't trust these experiences of that sort. Shoot, must be getting late in the show. What was I going to get to? All right, what were we talking about just a minute ago? Oh, gosh. The last thing that was said.
Are you having a Debbie moment, Ken?
No, not a Debbie moment, a Ken moment. So much for the thoughts usually flowing. No, this was an important one that I was going to add to.
Spirits with top hats. I don't know. Deb mentioned about the one with the derby or the style brown hat.
Spiritual top hats.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, doesn't ring a bell except we're just saying. I know that's.
Only I could say off course, Ken.
Come on Friday.
So yeah, I mean, if it's a period hat, that's different than if it's something for a ritual. But other than that, when you see something very sleek and almost if it's bald, I mean, are you going to look like that in the afterlife if you're a minion? But you know what? I think something what it was is that you are. Oh, I know what it was. When you are promised in Satanism certain things, some things are exact lies, and then they'll say, well, and they'll pull loophole stuff because they're legalists. But on the other side, they do keep some promises. You might be showing in the outfit that you use to appease Satan through whatever form of magic or paganism, and you're a minion. So it could be a top hat or one of your other things that you did. These horrid type rituals in. And like I said, the top hat is reminiscent of the Baron, what's his name? Michael Baron von. You remember the original Papa Voodoo guy? And he wore a top hat and he draws a skull face on there. That's been going on for a long time. He's like a an icon or figure. So does that does that make a difference at some point, or are we going back and seeing a thing in time? Depends on what they're there for. This is why I always say, when you're doing investigations, look for the earmarkings of the demonic and don't ignore them. If you see them, doesn't mean you're supposed to ignore them. But if it's grandma's ghost and all the other things are there, you're going to say, is that really grandma's ghost? Because I'm getting red flags, and that's what they are, red flags. Top hat guy, is it is it an evil experience or a period past ghost? Is going to usually reveal itself because you'll be, you're not going to have sleep paralysis in the face of a guy who lived in the past who wore a top hat. He was a Wall Street, giant. You know what I mean?
Right.
So look for those
Charles Darwin or
negative. And I mean, you might be afraid no matter what. Like an El Casper thing, your eyeballs might pop out and your jaw drops to the floor. But that's not what we're looking for. That's not a telltale. Your feelings, ignore your feelings, Luke. Your feelings mean nothing because the angels of darkness pretend to be angels of light. They'll fool every sense. You'll feel love and warm, fuzzy, So you can't pay attention to that any more than you can. I went into a haunting, and you're nervous because you're new. Oh, I had tightness in my chest, which is caused from anxiety, and all this other stuff. And the funny thing is you'll get anxiety in the face of evil for no reason. You'll be like, wow, and you're not on an investigation. You just might walk in and visit someone's house, and you'll get it. You can't go by feelings, but it is something to pay attention to as one of the elements. But you don't call it a key factor. I think that's important to mention. But I think we need to roll out the show before Facebook cuts us off. I think it's the software, though. If I make a transition, I have a risk, especially an hour into the show, that because it's happened every time. When I did test shows, no, I didn't do them for over an hour. Last week when we had the same thing, and seamlessly came back and said buffering. We should see buffering halfway through. I'm just going to put that note on the more to come video. Or not video, but the slide that says more to come when we're taking a break, at the halfway mark. And I'll just say, if you see buffering, hang on, we'll be right back. And I reboot the computer, and the cool thing with this Facebook Live that you don't know if you're not using a PC, for example, is that it comes right back to it and takes off where you left off almost seamlessly. So when it does the archive, not necessarily for you guys waiting, you're waiting as we are for it to kick back in. And then we got to call everybody back so you hear everybody, ring, ring, if they're a landline, because you don't hear when I dial in a Facebook account. I mean, a Skype account.
Yeah, and then I say, oh, Ken hung up on me. Duh, I should go to bed.
Yeah. Hey, Denise, thanks very much. You know what? I got a huge, I only got one page. There's 4 of them here. And you got stuff, so we'll schedule one for a later date, and I'll scratch off the ones we went over tonight, so we can do. I'm going to say honestly a part 2, because of the things that we covered, I think were better. To actually enhance and add on to previous shows that we've done. Did we do another show before this one back in our radio days, Denise? I don't even remember.
I don't remember. Yeah. We all go over so many things on all these shows that we're on, and your show and my show. It is hard to remember what we've talked about last time.
Yeah, there's some great topics.
And you also have to be working on Halloween.
Yeah, maybe we can. Usually we do that. Make Halloween talk about extreme hauntings. They get be up the ante a little bit. Yeah, but that's That's
Yeah, but one thing I really would like to see us go over is how to really clear a house, as opposed to the way that most people are doing it. Because people will come to me and say,
yeah, like a
"Well, I need to
how-to,
cleanse
make
my
it a
house."
definitive guide too. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because I think that that's important, that people aren't going out there with their sage and seagrass and going, "Oh, this is all, everything's good. It's hunky-dory," and they accidentally start a fire in their house, and it really wasn't an accident. It was done by the spirit that was there. You know, I haven't used sage in probably 2 years.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
Because I don't think that it works. I think it has to come from the heart.
Yeah, spiritual authority.
Yeah.
Are you Indian, Denise?
I am, but if you're talking to someone else, I always ask them what religion they are before I tell them what to do. So.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
But I was raised Baptist.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, but that's you found out something that we can explain theologically. But I found that out too before I was able to explain it theologically. So I went around and started asking people, and read about some notes about Crawley, and it's been used for appeasement of gods and goddesses and demons to some degree because of the Crawley and some others that actually wrote about it. And those things, the writings weren't so like on the shelf at one point. All you had with Anton LaVey and Crawley and just a few others, Guetta. I mean, the older. Most it would be the use of sage would be more out there as a pagan practice.
Well, it all depends what religion you are. Also,
yeah.
I mean, if you're Indian, what tribe are you from? And some tribes are strictly sage. It depends what tribe you're from.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and there's so many in the United States. Thank you, everybody. Next week, I'm not sure what the topic's going to be, but we're making our transition to the real deal. It begins with this video leap that we've been trying to shoot for a long time, but we get set back. We hope that we had some new listeners tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to post them or provide them on Facebook. The links are below. TheRealDeals.com is going to be underway. But we are really are glad that you had listened to our show tonight. We thank you very much. Next week, of course, we'll have Deb back, right? Michael? Christopher? Yep. Sounds like a plan?
Of course.
Denise, thank you very much. And we'll see Denise in the chat room at least, probably, unless she's heading to Vegas again.
No, our next trip is going to be St. Louis and to your house, and then after that'll be Florida. We're going to go to Florida in May, so we have no more big trips for a while.
Yeah, love Florida. No, all right, yeah, God bless everybody out there who suffering the storms and so forth, but at least we have some recourse, to pray when we're all helpless in any means, including the work that we do. And investigation, discernment. And we'll do another show on this in October. We'll pull one up in October. Sound like a plan, Denise? And we'll bring you back for that one, too.
Sure.
All right.
I'm always here.
Denise, in case I have to fly out in an emergency, I know I can count on you.
Always be. Well, the thing is last time it didn't really matter because all me and Michael did was sit there and talk on the phone while stuff happened.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
All right.
All you got to do, Denise, just talk.
I can do that.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, you got me covered. Thank you.
You got it.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, you guys.
The Real Deals are gone. Next Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back. See you then. Hello, this is Kenneth, Deel, Demonologist, along with my wife,
Farah.
This is something we get a lot of requests for, and people just don't know how to get a hold of us directly. The biggest answer for that is by email. They would contact us at
help@catholicdemonologist.com or help@swordofstmichael.org.
You can find us online on Facebook by looking up Kenneth, Farah, Deel. And we have a great many groups on there, don't we?
If you need prayer, we've got a private group called Prayer Warriors, Prayer for the Spiritually Afflicted. Also, got a fantastic Demonology Today radio show page. We have a page called Extreme Haunting.
Yes, and along with one called Ghostology and Demonology, the sandbox, where you can just toss around some theories and ideas and even ask a demonologist, which is a form, of course, that me and Farah personally answer, or contact us directly by phone at 573-990-1333, the Haunted Helpline.